What's up, everybody? Welcome to the video. Chris Pennell here, breaking down the Bass Pro Shops night race at Bristol, one of my favorite tracks. As you can see, it's in the background for a reason. I love Bristol. Unfortunately, over the years, it has gotten progressively worse, and actually, it's been a pretty bad track in recent memory, as recent as the spring race, where you could basically run 500 laps on the same tire. It was a Kyle Larson parade in the spring, which in practice, that was the complete different story. The tires are falling apart. I had high hopes. Unfortunately, the temperature change just did not make it work. But they are bringing a new tire this week that is supposedly supposed to fall off more. So let's hope for the best. But as we all know, nothing is guaranteed. But anyway, if this doesn't be your first time here, which I highly doubt at this point of the season, as NFL is in full swing, which I do have plenty of content out there, which you can check it out if you would like. But my name is Chris Pennell. I break down NASCAR DFS each and every single week on this channel. Typically videos on Saturdays, live streams on Sundays, and that is neither correct this week. It's going to be a video on Friday, no live stream on Sunday. The race will be on Saturday night. And if you do end up enjoying today's video, make sure you like down below. Scratch channel for brand new. Let's dive right into it. All right, let's talk some strategy here for Bristol. It is a small concrete steep bowl. It's a half a mile in length, and you can get lapped quite quickly here. So track position is usually pretty important. Now, sometimes at Bristol, we do get plenty of spins, and there does sometimes ends up being some carnage, or we can just go green flag and just nothing happens and the entire field is lapped besides Kyle Larson. That's also a possibility. But Bristol is a very unique track. I wouldn't say there's really anything to compare it to. The only one I usually kind of stretch towards is maybe Dover. I always call Dover its big brother or big sister. It's a mile in length. It's a concrete bowl. It's a bit steep as well, but it's not entirely the same. But we do see some overlap with the drivers that are good at Dover that do happen to be good at Bristol. But really, I would just depend on practice more so than anything with the new tire and just Bristol track history, because with unique tracks, that does tend to carry more weight for me than normal weeks. And we also have 500 laps on tap. That means 350 potential Dominator points, which is the most we will have all season long. So Dominators are going to be a key this week. You're going to want at least 2 per lineup. And typically at Bristol, it's fine to get these punts in there because it's going to make up for the fact that you're going to have drivers in your lineup that can potentially score 100 plus fantasy points, or if you're Kyle Larson in the spring, just around 200 fantasy points. So you cannot forego DOMs just for PD here. Like, it's great if someone starts 36 in the back, but if they don't get up front, they're going to be capped at, say, 60, 70 points based off fast laps. You know, the guys up front that can lead laps, I mean, could get 200 points if things go perfectly. And looking at our figure this week, I'm only going to show you one because, like I said, Bristol is very unique, and I don't think how they perform at intermediates or short flat tracks has anything to do with this weekend. But there's always a big three here at Bristol. It's Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, and Chris Ravel. These have been the three just men, I guess, at Bristol, and everybody else is competing for seconds. Larson, we saw he did in the spring. Denny Hamlin has won the fall race in recent memory, and Chris Ravel is also very good here in a potential Dominator. After that, Chase Elliott has typically been very good at the concrete tracks and Bristol specifically. Ty Gibbs has also performed pretty well here. Bowman, if you were looking at the spring result, he was running very well the entire race. Then close towards the end, I believe that's when he had the engine issue and blew up and obviously killed his day and killed my lineups because I had a lot of Alex Bowman and Kyle Larson. And when you have a guy that starts in the pole finishing pretty much last, that really just kills your lineup. And then everyone else is kind of just like clogged together. I see Blaney down there. I see Briscoe. I see Keselowski, Chris Buescher. It's kind of all just jam-packed, but just know the three up top, those are going to be most likely your contenders for this race. And finally, moving on to the driver-by-driver breakdown, but to mention one thing first, it's a free video, guys, so let me feed the dog and do my plug. But if you enjoy the best NASCAR DFS community out there, and I guess NFL now, since that is in complete full swing, tons of data and content for that. I did have the Patreon, but I am trying to get everyone over to the new website that I built myself. But all the content that we've had before, just moved it over to the website. Everything's a little bit easier to access and some more upgraded features. So if you want to come in and check that out, I'd absolutely love to have you. But I have NASCAR, NFL, and MLB going on. But obviously with NFL in full swing, tons of content there and for NASCAR. And as I always say, my pricing is very compared to everyone else in the industry. So I'd love to have you. And you can still get a free week trial over on the website. So if you want to check it out, links down in the description or the pinned comment for that. But if not, that's fine. Let's dive right into it. All right, it's a couple hours later and practice and qualifying has concluded. And as you can see, a lot of the guys that we expected to be up at the front of the field for practice and qualifying happen to do that. Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Blaney, Bell, all in the top 10. Decent chunk of those guys in the top 5. Now, we do have a couple of major PD plays with Chase Briscoe, also Kyle Busch here. But outside of that, doesn't look like anything too drastic. But let's take a look at practice here. Now, of course, in the group you are in, it can be skewed a little bit. So I'm going to try to compare this towards groups compared to the overall. But these are consecutive lap averages. And as you can see, Justin Haley unfortunately dominated the board. But Ryan Blaney right behind him. I thought he looked really good. He was also in Group B, which makes it even more impressive, I think. AJ Allmendinger threw it in the pole. He was running some pretty good laps. Carson Hocevar, Michael McDowell. Looking for some of the big dogs down here. You have Denny Hamlin pretty low on the board. Looks like William Byron's really low. Kyle Busch basically last. Christopher Bell, nothing too impressive. So I'm going to err on the side of caution looking at consecutive lap averages. Now, if we look at the overall lap by lap data, I'm going to sort it by group just so I feel like we can get a better idea of the speed, just basing it off that, because I don't really want to compare some of these Group A drivers to Group B. So as you can see, Group A, pretty weak group overall. I mean, none of the playoff drivers here. They put all those guys in Group B. So it's it feels like a waste of time just looking at Group A. Now, of course, if we're trying to get some mid-range plays and cheap guys, yeah, sure, we're going to try to compare. But the big dogs are all going to be down here. And as you can see, Ryan Blaney, the best in Group B, is also fantastic in the consecutive lap averages. So I think Ryan Blaney's got a really good car. He also ran a ton of laps. And the more laps you run, it's harder to post a better time on the way these get ranks. And he's still at the very top for his group. So I think Blaney's got a fantastic car. Looks like he's going to be really fast in the long run, fast in the short run. He qualified on the front row. If he can get out front in a hurry, there's a good chance he could certainly dominate this race. But Wallace continues just to have speed each and every single week. Ty Gibbs has been good here. Denny Hamlin lower than I would have expected. Kyle Larson lower than I expected. But this being such a unique track, the guys that are good here are just good here. It's kind of just it's hard to hide here at Bristol, I think, to put it lightly. So I am definitely going to be in on them despite the poor practice times. But I will tell you right now, the guy I am most impressed with just on paper before the race starts is most likely Ryan Blaney. All right, let's go driver by driver and break this all down. We'll start with the 5-figure range first. And we have 5 of these guys. And while they are expensive, if we think they can dominate, they are going to be necessary in this slate. So we're going to have to look down to these cheap plays to pair with them. But our main priority on this slate is guys that can potentially lapse and dominate, because there's so many laps here at Bristol. And they'll click by quick. We're talking nearly 15 seconds. So 50 laps led, it doesn't take too long. But we have all the big dogs up here. And I hate to be a cop-out, but I think you just have to mix and match them. Kyle Larson and Hamlin didn't really show a ton of speed in practice. Ryan Blaney, I thought, was pretty much the best car in practice, put on the front row. Of course, it would have been nice for him to be P1 so he could just run off into the sunset. We'll see what AJ Allmendinger can do with that, because he looked pretty good in his group. But Blaney right now on paper does look to be the fastest. Now, he does not have the pedigree as Larson and Denny Hamlin or Christopher Bell in the next-gen car here at Bristol, but he's been fast all season long. I think he'll be solid. Plus, at the last concrete track we were at Nashville, Ryan Blaney did win that race. So he has that going for him as well. But it's really just a mix and match approach for me. I think to make it easy and just not to be a complete cop out here, I am probably just not going to play Chase Briscoe if we're talking on DraftKings. I don't think he's going to have dominator upside in this race. It seems like Chase Briscoe, when he's good, he qualifies up front and then he runs up front. I have a hard time seeing him have any dominator upside in this race unless we have weird strategy, and that's not really something I can bank on. So just to make it easier on you to be able to afford these guys, Chase Briscoe, I'm probably crossing him off and just hoping he doesn't get up front somehow, because if he does not get up front, these guys should be able to outscore him quite easily, even though he does have a floor to work with. Dropping down to the 9K range, we have William Byron in 7th, Elliott in 16th, Logano in 22nd, and Bubba Wallace in 8th. And this is kind of an interesting group. I feel like I'm going to be so much heavier on the 4 drivers to start from Christopher Bell on up that I don't really see myself getting to this 9K range much. I think people will play Chase Elliott. I think people will play Joey Logano just because of the place differential upside, and they're not exactly the worst drivers at Bristol, but in next gen, Logano has really struggled here. I mean, I remember, I think like in 2019 or 2018, I took down the Chrome Horn Joey Logano at Bristol, and I believe Ryan Blaney was in that as well, but times have changed for Joey here, and he's really struggled. So I don't think he's going to dominate. I think he probably just runs around 15th to 20th. So I'm probably not going to play. Maybe a better FanDuel play, because we don't really need the dominator points as much. But even then, not that interesting. I'd much rather play Chase Elliott personally. Starts a little bit further up, but he's been really good here. Average finish 6.8, running position inside the top 12, 4 top 10s, 5 top 15s. I think Elliott's definitely the preferred play between those two. And it sounds a little crazy, but I might prefer Bubba Wallace over William Byron. I don't think the ownership's going to be... Well, I don't really think William Byron will be chalky, but I do think Bubba Wallace probably comes in lower owned than William Byron just because of the name. Like, William Byron always gets thrown into the Dom pool, so he's always going to have ownership. But Bubba Wallace, the speed we have seen from him recently is, I mean, it's been elite. I think that's probably fair to say. And I always make the joke in Discord, I'm like, Tyler Reddick's going to be $9,800, Bubba Wallace is going to be $8K, and it makes no sense. I think they should be the same price, if not Bubba being more expensive, because I think he's been fantastic all season long. And they finally priced him more. At $9,000 is starting to push the limit, but I think starting in 8th, I don't see him as a potential dominator, but he was one of the quickest in his group, and I think he could easily stick in the top 10 all day and scrape fast laps. And if some of these guys with place differential struggle, that could be the path to the optimal at lower ownership. So I think Bubba's definitely in the pool. I would say probably my favorite in this 9K range is Chase Elliott and Bo Wallace as of right now, a little bit lower on Byron and Logano. 8K range, Ty Gibbs starting in fourth. I view Ty Gibbs as a pretty similar play to Bubba Wallace. He's also been pretty good here in next gen, which is obviously the only thing he's been in. But in 5 races, 4 top 15s, 3 top 10s, 2 top 5s. Good drive rating. He's also been up front and has dominated before. He's got good track position. I'm going to have him projected for some downer points, but like in my head, I don't view him as a top level dom. But the upside is there for it. And if you have upside to dominate at a track like this and you have good track position, you have to be in that dom pool and you have to play them if you're playing multiple lineups. So Ty Gibbs will certainly be in that pool. I don't really see myself being on Tyler Reddick too much. I know he had a little bit of PD and he's cheaper this week, but he's just not really that great of a driver at Bristol, running position around 20th. And we have 1 top 15 finish. I think Tyler Reddick's probably going to struggle here. Ross Chastain, I feel like it's a bit of a better play, has a better track record here at Bristol, 3 top 10s, 4 top 15s in 5 races. He's not going to be a priority for me by any means for where he's starting, but because I feel like the way I'm building, if I'm going to be a little top heavy, it's going to be hard for me to get into this 8K range as it is. But his practice times to fire off weren't horrible, but I'm not sure how much I actually want to put into that. But I think Ross is the preferred play over Reddick. And then Alex Bowman, I played him in the spring, and he was running basically top 5, top 2 the entire day, only behind Kyle Larson after led laps early on because he qualified on the pole. He's had a bit of a dreadful run recently, but he's really not that bad here. He's very good at Dover, which I think if you're going to compare any track to Bristol, I would say it probably has to be Dover. But I think Bowman's in the pool for sure. Starting 2 spots further back than Ross Chastain, maybe a slight preference there, but I think they're 2 very similar plays. And you're playing tournaments looking at lower ownership, I don't think many people are going to go with these drivers, but Ty Gibbs, Chastain, Bowman, probably my preferred options. Kyle Busch, so I'm sure we'll have ownership starting in 32nd, but it just feels a little trappy. I think he has a really good chance he goes a lap down early on. Kyle Busch at Bristol used to be the man. You'd play him every single slate because he would always contend to win. He has a ton of wins here, but obviously times have changed in this 8 car. Dropping down to the 7K range, bunch of odd plays, like just staring at it. I don't see anything that jumps off the page. Now the 2 RFK cars, actually I guess there is 3 RFK cars here. They've all ran pretty good at Bristol. Now Ryan Preece, obviously a smaller sample size in the RFK car, but in 4 races here, averaging position of 15th. Same with Chris Buescher, same with Brett Keselowski, and they've all been pretty consistent top 10, top 15 cars. So I'm fine with them for where they are starting. Now, of course, none of them are in the playoffs, which does concern me a little bit, but at these price tags, if you land on this range, I would say the RFK cars are the route that I would end up going. Buescher does have a win here as well in next gen, and obviously Brett Keselowski's been good here as a veteran, so he knows his way around Bristol. Cindric's going to be really tough to play in third. I mean, if you want to throw him in the dom pool for the outside chance that it happens, you could. I don't see it happening, and Hocevar starts a bit too far up front for me, and he is the last guy I'm probably going to trust here. Dropping down to the 6K range, we have Josh Berry, who's had a horrible playoff so far, and really just he started off the season hot, and he just hasn't really had it in recent weeks. Obviously, he wrecked on lap 1 last week. I don't really see a ton of upside here. I mean, if the tires really wore off, I didn't really think we saw that too much in practice. So starting in 10th, I think the upside's pretty low. If you want to view him as a similar play to Bubba Wallace, where maybe he sticks in the top 10 and scrapes fast laps, that could work, but I think the chances of that, I mean, he could, but even that, it doesn't guarantee he's going to be in the winning lineup. I mean, Ryan Preece starts 10 spots further back. I think there's similar upside there, and he's only $200 more. Now, AJ Allmendinger, this is probably the question mark of the slate, because we have him on the pole. He was decently fast in his group, put down some decent lap times. Does have 2 top 10s here, but how long is he going to be able to hold off the big dogs? Because if he does lead laps early on, let's say AJ Allmendinger leads 40 laps and he finishes 8th, that might be enough at $6,600. We're talking about a guy that can potentially lead laps at Bristol, and if it's going to be tough to pass, we've seen that in this car. Say he leads 80 laps. Decent chance he could make the optimal depending on how many fast laps he gets. Now, it's not a guarantee he doesn't get passed early on or even at the beginning of the race. That could just be Ryan Blaney and Dinger just falls back the entire race. But I think Dinger has to be in the dom pool. I mean, he has to be $6,600. I know it seems unconventional because it's AJ Allmendinger, and I believe they said this is his first pole since 2015, but there's the chance he could lead laps. I'm probably not going to play him on FanDuel because those lap sleds at the very beginning aren't going to mean much because I don't trust him throughout the entire race. But for DraftKings, if he hangs around the top 10, top 12 with a decent chunk of odometer points, it can work, but there is plenty of risk. SVG, we only have one race here and it went horribly wrong. I think he's probably going to struggle. This is a tough track. So now starts too far for me in 11th. Eric Jones, $6,300 starting in 27th. He'll probably be one of the more popular cheap plays. If I had to imagine, back in the day, he was actually pretty good at Bristol. Fortunately, he's in a worse car these days. But I think there's a decent chance he can move up. I would definitely prefer him over SVG personally. John Hunter Nemechek, I can't get that guy right. I play him and he will run 26, then I don't play him because it makes no sense to, and then he runs third. And it's like, what the heck? Where did that come from? I mean, he's in the pool, but starting in 19th, I'll tell you right now, he's not going to project well for me. If I'm going to play Nemechek, I'm going to have to force him in. Michael McDowell actually has been pretty decent at Bristol, 4 top 15s in 5 races, starting in 25th. I think him and Eric Jones are pretty similar plays, but based off of recent track record, Michael McDowell would be the preferred option there, with being a little bit cheaper. Daniel Suarez starts nearly dead last in 35th. I mean, I hate playing him, and I don't really trust him at all, but it's going to be hard for him to move backwards any more than he is already. 5K range, Corey Heim starts in 38th. I assume this is going to be pretty chalky. I mean, we're getting 5K Corey Heim starting almost at last, only behind Chad Fincham. I think it's very unlikely Corey Heim does not move up spots here, so I would say he's probably going to be the cash game cheap play here to help fit in our studs. And then after that, we could go in depth here. I know Justin Haley was very fast, but the practice speeds might have been a little bit fake there. Todd Gillen starts in 36. People will go there. Ty Dillon in 37th. I can get that. Chad Fincham is going to be a liability in the track, and you will probably see Blaney or Dinger passing him in 20 laps. It's going to be ridiculous. So outside of that, it's really just a mix and match approach here. Corey Heim is going to be definitely the preferred option. I mean, if we're looking at the consecutive lap averages, I mean, Haley dominated. Zane Smith looked pretty good in 24th. And then Riley Herbst, starting in 29th, actually had some pretty quick speeds. But for me, outside of Corey Heim, it's a mix and match approach. And Zane Smith always seems like he has top 15, top 20 upside for no reason at all. Now, he's actually been pretty solid on tire wear tracks this year. We'll see how much the tire actually falls off. Of course, the race is going to be a bit of a different time than when practice and qualifying took place, so we can hope for the best. But yeah, Corey Heim definitely looks good. But with that being said, that's all I got for today's video. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, or even if you didn't, make sure you like down below. Scratch if you're brand new. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below. I'd be more than happy to answer them. If you want to check out all the extra content on the new website, you can also check that down below in the pinned comment. But I wish you all the best, and I'll see y'all next time.